The nuclear physics have changed. Iran has advanced its program significantly. I think what's changed is that there is a sense now in Iran that they can't have their cake and eat it too. Except for, sorry, just to finish, that was the choice. Unfortunately, the negotiations at Geneva and a stabilized economy that gets the oil flowing. And then Supreme Leader Khamenei can do what he's...
All right, folks, welcome back to the Steve Malzberg Show. Joining us now is our former ambassador to the United Nations.
Hi, how are you, Steve? Glad to be with you.
Thank you very much for joining us. All right, before we get to that, by the way, that was Executive Director. Get to that, you're talked about as a possible presidential candidate, and you and I have talked about this health care. Want to reinstate all those canceled policies, be my guest.
You know, it is another example of requirements that are being played out now that are causing all this pain in the individual insurance market is really an insult to the entire constitutional system. He's required, the Constitution says the president must take care that the laws be faithfully executed. If the law isn't working, there's a way to change it, and it's through Congress. So I think this is a demonstration the president's purely motivated by politics. He knows he's got a problem on his hands, and this isn't going to work in any event because insurance companies, state regulatory commissions, and get this now, the American people don't live their lives year by year. They want to fix to this, and even if you believed in this one-year deferral, it doesn't solve the fundamental problem with Obamacare itself.
No, and imagine telling these insurance companies from a bureaucracy standpoint who just canceled everybody, oh, if you could take them back. I mean, the paperwork, the bureaucracy would be incredible.
Well, no, they've also, this shows the president doesn't have the insurance rates. They're based on masses of data, projections, life expectancies, disease rates. I mean, it's a very complex business, and they can't just change that on a dime. I think what the president's now seeing is that the fundamental premises of Obamacare don't work, and he's scrambling day by day to avoid doing what really needs to be done, which is to get rid of this thing root and branch and start over again.
Yeah, that would be nice. All right, let's move on. You wrote a great piece that I am seeing when it comes to foreign affairs and how our influence in the Middle East is at an all-time low. Talk about that and talk about, John Kerry basically scolding Benjamin Netanyahu and speaking ill of him reportedly to the congressional leaders yesterday. This is unprecedented as far as I know.
Yeah, well, let's deal with Iran first, and then what Kerry did to Israel about the Palestinian issue. And I was actually in Jerusalem when Kerry was there, so I saw the reports on it firsthand. Look, the Obama administration's policy on Iran, let's be very plain-spoken about it. It is appeasement. They think that if they give Iran enough concessions in return for superficial concessions by Iran, that they can avoid an Israeli strike against the Iranian nuclear weapons program. That's what this is all about. The administration, our administration, fears an Israeli strike in preemptive self-defense more than it fears an Iranian nuclear weapons. The government in Tehran is taking Obama to the cleaners. They understand that they don't have to perform very much to get what they want, which is relief from the sanctions. And here I have to just say a word on this sanctions question. North Korea is the most heavily sanctioned country on earth. Its people are perennially near starvation. It has detonated 3 nuclear devices. The fact is the economic sanctions have hurt Iran, but they have not in the slightest slowed down the nuclear weapons program.
Yeah, and I'm sorry, you made that great analogy in a piece. A Korean ghost lurks at the U.S.-Iran nuclear talks. That was in the Asia Wall Street Journal last week. Yeah.
Yeah, for Americans, if you say the value of the Iranian currency has collapsed, that it's impossible to buy goods overseas, that the gross national product is declining, that the standard of living of the Iranian middle class is threatened, most Americans would say, what, threaten my standard of living? I'll give up anything. But that's not what they think in the Ayatollah's dwellings in Iran. It's not what they think in the Iranian Revolutionary Guards Corps. They couldn't care less what happens to the living standard of the average Iranian, as long as it doesn't threaten the regime, and there's no evidence of that. So the economic sanctions may hurt the middle class, which, by the way, is the most anti-regime element in Iran, but it's not having an effect on the nuclear weapons program. Does Iran want relief from sanctions? Sure. Why not have their cake and eat it too? Why not have what the Obama administration is now offering, relief from the sanctions and a legitimate path to nuclear weapons? And that's one aspect I think the proponents of sanctions in this country have missed. Even if their policy made sense, it still has to be administered by Barack Obama, which is like in the case of sanctions, it's like W.C. Fields administering prohibition. It's not going to work.
Yeah.
So all the talk about sanctions, unfortunately, diverts us from Iran's continuing steady progress toward nuclear weapons.
Okay, now, yeah, we got about a minute left, so and it's not fair, but the Israeli criticism by Kerry.
Well, Kerry said two things in Jerusalem that were stunning. He said if Israel did not make more concessions to the Palestinians, in effect, that no one should be surprised if there was a third intifada, and no one should be surprised if European efforts to delegitimize the state of Israel continued. That's like giving a green light to Palestinian radicals to launch a third intifada and to say to the Europeans, we're not going to stand in the way of your delegitimization efforts. Talk about unprecedented. That was unprecedented.
Yeah. Mr. Ambassador, always a pleasure to speak to you, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Steve.
Take care. That's Ambassador John Bolton, ladies and gentlemen, here on the Steve Malzberg Show. When we come back, we're going to do Malzberg's meeting.
Hi, this is